Meanwhile, McCoy's like, well, Jim, I guess we'll just have to bury D'Amato under a pile of rocks. Funny story. It's a bit like what they do to you in that movie Star Trek Generations when you, maybe a man shouldn't know too much about his own future.
It was fun. Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk. Mr. Spock.
Your move, Captain. Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on? I'm James Kirk. These people are my friend and my shipmate. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that? James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas. Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to, drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Jolan True, friends, and welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
Welcome ashore, Allie.
Yep, shore leave is over.
Shore leave is over. Get your ass back to work.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about this more on a patron-only segment, but tell us a little bit about the cruise. Give us the high level. How was it?
Oh, it was great. This was my second cruise. So like the first cruise, everything is amazing. And this cruise was also amazing too.
But you kind of know what to expect?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what to expect. The weather was great, much better than last time. They had some amazing guests on.
Did you get to hang out with Dr. Mohammed Noor?
I did, actually.
What?
Indirectly. So I met him at the beginning of one of his sessions, and I tried to go to pretty much all of the science sessions with him and Aaron McDonald.
Yeah.
They're super, super interesting. And I was like, hi. And he's like, hey. I was like, you were on our podcast. He's like, yeah, I remember.
What?
And we got to say hello.
So
and then
cool.
another time we were, someone organized a sort of impromptu people of color POC meetup.
Oh, nice.
And he joined us at the table in like the little restaurant where they serve pizza 24/7. So we were all sitting there and we took pictures and he was kind of hanging out with us. So that was cool.
The story I do want you to tell on the public show is I got a text from Allie that's like, holy shit, I just met somebody who knows us, who's heard the show. Like some dude recognized me. And I was like, oh my God, Allie, you made it.
So it was general sci-fi night where we got to dress up as and celebrate all things sci-fi.
Right.
And I think I was standing on the promenade on deck 5 where everybody walks back and forth.
Was this your Doctor Who costume night? Okay.
I was dressed as the fugitive doctor, which is the only black female doctor on Doctor Who.
It looked great inside that photo op thing with the action figure.
I love they gave us that opportunity to walk into that little plastic booth and then freeze and take a photo. So yeah, I was just hanging out and someone came up to me dressed in a red Star Trek uniform and said, "Are you Allie?" I'm like, "Oh shit, what did I do?" And I said, "Yes." He's like,
"I'm here to take you into custody."
In the Humanist Trek podcast, I'm like, "Yes."
Oh my
and
God.
That made my whole fucking day.
That's so cool.
Because we're an independent podcast. We're not part of a big network.
No.
So we're
not under the umbrella of Big Roddenberry or anything.
No, and we do have a lot of listeners, and so he was just like, "Oh my gosh," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, someone knows who we are," and
oh, that's incredible.
And his name is Rex, so I want to give a shout out to Rex.
Hell yeah.
I did take a selfie with him, and thank you, Rex, for making my entire cruise. Like, if the rest of the cruise went to shit, that was the moment that really mattered.
That's amazing.
That you listen to our silly ramblings and you like it.
Yeah.
So
I love it. Hi, Rex. Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Amazing guests. Otherwise, again, LeVar Burton was the one person I really wanted to meet, and I did get a picture with him.
Please tell me you started singing
Butterfly. My brain locked up. So when I get nervous, my brain just
you get a little starstruck.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's LeVar fucking Burton, for crying out loud.
I know. I was shaking, and all I managed to say was, "It is an absolute honor to meet you." And I think yeah.
Well, I have a surprise for you, Allie. Joining us on the call now is LeVar Burton.
Bullshit. Oh, shoot me now.
Oh, man.
But yeah, he was so nice and just so sweet and so good looking. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
is that what you'd call a zaddy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, beautiful guy, beautiful spirit, beautiful, just everything that he's done. Like from the time he was Kunta Kinte on Roots.
Yeah.
I watched that when I was a kid. Didn't realize the impact when I was very little, to Reading Rainbow.
Yeah.
And then to Geordie LaForge.
Yeah.
And then his continued, fight to promote reading and read banned books and all that. I mean, he's a hero.
Yeah. A national treasure, in fact.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So I was like, I just wanted to see him. I did get photos with Michelle Hurd, who is also, amazing. And then I got a photo of the Crusher family photo with Gates McFadden, Will Wheaton, and Will Wheaton.
I think you should all be nicer to Will Wheaton.
The way I treat my colleagues... Wait, what?
I said you ought to be nicer to Will Wheaton.
You mean Will Wheaton?
Yes, Will Wheaton.
Why are you saying it like that?
What? I'm just saying you should be nicer to Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton seems like a nice guy.
Say wheat.
Wheat.
Now, say Will Wheaton.
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 Hey, did you hook up with Whoopi Goldberg on the show?
All the time.
Hey, nerds.
Will Wheaton. And Ed Speleers, his half-brother.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So there's so much. Yeah.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to kick the rest of this conversation to the Patreon feed at patreon.com/humanistrek if you want to hear all the details. And what I could probably do, since we're going to try to record video for that, assuming it works, I can splash in some of these pictures as you talk about them. So if you want to see all of that, including Allie's cruise trip pictures, join us on Patreon.
Yeah.
Well, that's the fun part of the open to the show. The not so fun part is what I've been doing the last 3-4 weeks.
Yes, I want to check in with my friend to see how you're doing.
I'm better now. So we told you about my brother-in-law's passing and my trip to Texas. And then we came back, and 3 weeks later, I get a frantic phone call Saturday morning, Saturday the 17th. Was that? Yeah, Saturday the 17th. April 17th. I get a frantic phone call from my sister that says, you need to get to Florida now. So my parents take the giant camper, fifth wheel, and they go to, they've been going to Florida for years. They've been snowbirded, and, Illinois winters are god awful. So they go to Florida to get away from it. And then they will also drag that camper to Texas and visit my sister and out here to visit us. And so I knew they were in Florida, and the get your ass to Florida call really kind of shook me. And my sister didn't say right away, there was a pause. There was a pregnant pause. It's Dad. So we all, the three of us girls, booked flights from Illinois, Colorado, and Texas that day, and all got to Tampa within an hour of each other. I got into Tampa first, and so then I waited for Kathy, and then she and I waited for Dina, and we were all together, and we got in a rental car together and drove to the Tampa hospital together. What had happened was that morning my dad had woke up and was complaining of the worst headache of his life. The man never gets headaches. And then he was throwing up. The man never throws up, right? So he's sick. And like dads of the era, right? It had been 2 hours where he was sitting around dealing with this on his own before he finally went to Mom and said, holy shit, this is bad. So he was on, a cocktail of medications, like happens when you get old. Like we talked about before, we're not an evolved species that's supposed to live to 100, So
Right.
as our bodies get old, there are problems. He'd had heart problems. He'd had multiple stents put in, and he was also on blood thinners.
Mhm.
And they had just started him on a new medication that caused some side effects that he wasn't keen on, so he stopped taking it. So there was a lot going on with that. He had a massive brain bleed at the brain stem,
Oh no.
and that was what was causing all the pain and the throwing up. And had it been anywhere else in his brain, he would have suffered a lot longer. But because it was at the brain stem, his blood flooded his brain pretty quickly. By the time the ambulance got there and got him into the ambulance, he coded on the way to the hospital, and they brought him back enough to, intubate him and keep his body pumping. His brain was gone at that point. He was already gone early Saturday morning. But here's the thing I learned. Want is not the right word, but if a family member is going to go, you want them to go in the hospital. Because if not, then they have to do an autopsy, apparently, and all of this other investigative stuff about, if they declare him dead in transport or at the site or whatever, then they have to do more testing and stuff. Whereas if it happens at the hospital, not so much. That's the thing I didn't know before this all went down.
I didn't know that either.
No. And so Mom kept him intubated until all of us girls got there. And then together we made the decision to take him off of that life support because he wasn't there. Yeah, and he hadn't been there all day, And
obviously he didn't wake up, right?
There was no brain activity to have woken up.
Right.
So it kind of at that point, it was what it was. So my mother is alone, with us there, but otherwise alone in Florida with a 35-foot monster camper fifth wheel.
Right.
And this giant dually big ass truck that I hate because it's so freaking loud, and I'm sure it's terrible for the environment. And I hate that truck so much, but that's what you needed to pull the big fifth wheel. So my sisters and I had to get that thing from Florida to Illinois.
Holy shit. I didn't realize you drove.
I didn't. My sister was being selfish and wouldn't let me.
Okay.
So my sister drove the entire trip.
Did you go with her or did you fly home?
The four of us road tripped that thing back to Illinois.
I did not know that.
Which was a very healing experience. Having that time together to process. And, we got to talk about what do we want this funeral service to look like? And who do we want to, who's
Decisions
the preacher?
Decisions had to be made, and that's at least you were forced to be together in that moment for a long time and get that bang those things out. So that's good. That's good.
Because a lot of times when someone dies, you end up 48 hours later at the funeral home, and they're bombarding you with all of these questions and decisions that have to be made when you're not ready. So we had 3 days of driving this big camper back to Illinois to talk through some of that stuff and who would we like to do the service and who do we want the pallbearers to be and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Fortunately, although it's good news, bad news kind of thing, my sister, who just lost her husband, was a month ahead of all the things that my mom is going to now need to do. So she's kind of got that experience fresh in her mind of here are all the steps that need to be taken. So then we finally get this thing home. And now we have to deal with all of the things, and being back in Illinois, this is going to be the longest intro to an episode ever, but I think it's important because we're going to get to a humanist theme that's not in the episode, and more humanism in the first 20 minutes of the show than there are in the whole damn episode.
That's true. There's not much in this one, but that's okay.
So we're making all these decisions, and I come from a town of 1,200 people in the middle of a cornfield, and I had a high school graduating class of 32, and 30 of those people are still there, basically. Not many of us left.
32, you're one of the only people who left.
There are others, but this is a kind of place where generations of families live and never leave.
Mm-hmm.
It is what you would expect from a place like that, very conservative, rural, Midwest. And it became increasingly clear to me as the week went on, I do not feel welcome in that space. I do not feel like I belong there anymore. That is not home for me.
Mm-hmm.
while there are people there who are safe, the whole area that just, I don't belong in that culture anymore. It is,
Right.
We talk about like two Americas or whatever. This is what I'm talking about. Like this kind of set in our ways, kitchen table flyover America is very different from city life kind of America.
Liberal America.
Yeah. The liberal coastal elites, they call us or whatever. My dad was a believer, and I really did feel like the atheist in town when those discussions came up, right? People posted on the Facebook post and, thoughts and prayers and all of that kind of language. And I'm the one that doesn't, one of these things is not like the other
one. But I mean, so I get it. And
yeah.
But it's your mom's
right
thing.
Exactly.
And you just, no matter how you feel, you gotta let them grieve how they grieve.
Yes, exactly. Everybody grieves differently, and everybody needs different things to grieve. As a humanist celebrant, I could be called upon to lead a funeral. Now, I wouldn't do a religious one, of course, because I'm a humanist celebrant, not a religious one. But even in that, if a family member would want to get up and read a scripture, that's fine by me. I'm not going to read it, but you're welcome to get up and read it if that's what you want during the service.
I'm cool with that, yeah.
Because everyone needs something different. And so the goal of a memorial service or a celebration of life is to help people through the grieving process. Then you need to provide a little bit of something for everybody. And I get that, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
You want to pray at the beginning and end? That doesn't bother me. You want to read a scripture or two? I'm not trying to tell you not to make it a religious thing.
Right.
And it was great. So what we ended up doing, we have pastors in the family, one of whom is my cousin, and the other married one of my cousins. So these are family members who knew my dad. The worst kind of memorial service is when a preacher gets up and starts talking about
shit about the person that
Allie was a good God-fearing Christian and she loved the Lord and all that bullshit.
Have you met me?
Right.
I mean,
right? So you get
I don't want
somebody
anyone saying that shit.
You get somebody up there that doesn't know the person, and it's very obvious to the people who did. And so this was great because we had people who, I mean, my cousin grew up with us,
Yeah.
So all the kids, grandkids, greats, cousins, everybody wrote memories.
Oh, I love that.
Right? That's the thing we want to talk about. We want to celebrate his life. That's why we call it a celebration of life. And so we're going to talk about the funny shit that he did, because he was a good old country boy and he would do all kinds of stuff that, you probably not safe and, but you just do it because you got to get the thing done or whatever. And so, so we all kind of, shared memories and that was healing. That was helpful.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet it was.
Yeah.
Aww.
So that was 2 weeks of my life, and time has flown, and I have lost track of days and times. So it was a week from the 17th getting the camper home. That was a week. And then another week of planning the memorial and doing all of that stuff and the graveside and all of those things was another week. And then you could kind of tell that my mother she'd had enough. I love y'all, but go.
I was gonna say she had enough of everyone being around. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Sometimes you just want a minute to yourself, and I imagine she was like, "Get the fuck out."
Yeah. So my oldest sister still lives in town, and so she's there and can help, which is good. It hurts me because I want to be there to help too, but I get that we're a lot. My family is a lot. So then I get home. Head cold starts in. I got the runny nose, scratchy throat. And
Here we go.
I test positive for xenopolychlamydia. COVID-19, y'all. Holy shit. I went 4 years or however long it's been without getting that damn thing. I was a proud Novid until I went back to the rural Midwest.
Now you're a COVID.
Yeah. Damn it. So
Welcome.
Welcome to the club. Gee, thanks. Well, hopefully there's not an alien that's trying to solve an overpopulation problem and they won't take me and, use some of my COVID antibodies or whatever.
Like, so you lost your taste and all, you went through the whole thing and feeling like you're going to die. And then
thank you and others who were like, right now, get Paxlovid.
Some Paxlovid.
Yeah, that shit's good. Except that it makes your mouth taste like metal. That was an interesting experience.
Okay.
Everything tasted like metal. And sure enough, within like 3 days, like symptoms were alleviating. I was starting to feel better. And then day 5 or 6 or whatever, I test negative. 48 hours later, I test negative. So I'm good. I'm clear.
Yay, science.
Woo! Yay, science.
Do you have your taste back?
I do. Yes. Thank God it came back quickly. I don't want any long COVID. The long COVID I have right now is I feel what Becca feels now as an asthmatic person who's, struggles with breathing a lot out here. I go up the stairs and I'm just like, okay, I need to sit down and rest a minute because that was a lot. But we joined a gym. So we're gonna start going to the gym and trying to be healthier and shit. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What?
Who am I? I know.
Well, good. That's awesome. I need to, after that cruise, I need to go back to the gym as well. So let's get healthy together.
Hell yeah. You know what I did when I was laid up in bed with COVID? Once I slept for 48 hours straight, right? And then once I started feeling a little bit better, I was like, oh, you know what? On my year break between my last real job and, oh shit, we're out of money, I have to start doing something. During that year, I bought some games on Steam when they, when they dropped to like $9.99 or whatever instead of $30. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to buy it now. But
what did you play?
I didn't have time to play it. Now I had time to play it. I played Star Trek Prodigy Supernova.
How is it?
It's amazing. It's fantastic. It reminded me a lot of, so my son and I used to play Lego Star Wars back in the day on Xbox. And the way Lego Star Wars worked in all the Lego games, it's like a 2-player game. You can play it 1 player and like switch back and forth between characters to do the things because a lot of it is like cooperative puzzle solving. So your character has to pull a switch while my character goes through the thing. The force field turns off and then your character lets go of the switch and then you have to go over here and do something else. Right. So it's very cooperative, like puzzle thinking.
Gotcha.
And that's how this game is. So I have played it thus far. I'm on the final boss battle and I'm kind of leveling up before I go take that on. But I think, and my son's not into Star Trek, but I think because of the game style, I think we could play it together. When the hell am I going to have time for that, though? I got to get back to work.
I know, me too. And Sarah, tell me something. How come we're not friends on Steam?
I don't know. Because I don't do anything with it. I very rarely play.
I don't either.
You know what we could do? I could do Twitch streams of the Star Trek games.
Oh, that would be cool.
I could. Yeah.
I could try to like play against you and we could do.
That'd be fun. Yeah. Okay. We got to figure this out.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Well, anyway, I survived COVID-19 like the Brinks Home Security System on a planet far away whose inhabitants are long since gone. It's Star Trek, the original series, Season 3, Episode 17, That Which Survives.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflectors, full intensity.
Mr. Sulu, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
So we're in orbit of a planet that, according to science, should not exist. It's only a few thousand years old, and yet there's atmosphere and vegetation, which, of course, Spock points out could not have evolved so quickly. And yet, here it is.
So they've referred to this as a ghost planet?
Yeah.
It's nothing supernatural about it, but just for those particular reasons that you mentioned, it's a ghost planet.
So Kirk, Sulu, McCoy, and senior geologist D'Amato are beaming down to investigate, leaving Spock in command. Down in the transporter room, Kirk is really selling this planet to D'Amato. Like, this is a geologist's wet dream or something.
Spock's in charge. He calls in Lieutenant Rada to take over for Sulu, which is awesome to see a woman at the helm. And
was she also depicted? I didn't look this up. Let me look it up. As an Indian woman? Yeah.
I believe so, yes. Radha.
Right.
I did wonder about that, but yes.
Here, let me read up on her. This is Naomi Pollock, and I didn't do a guest star breakdown on her, so I'll do. Here's some memory alpha for you. Lieutenant Rada was 23rd century Starfleet officer assigned to the Enterprise under Kirk. 2268, Rada took over the helm for Hikaru Sulu. Rada was played by actress Naomi Pollock. The Star Trek Encyclopedia misspelled her name as RHADA instead of RAHDA. The Pocket TOS novels, A Choice of Catastrophe, That Which Divides, and The Face of the Unknown, give her the first name Manjula, while Allegiance in Exile, Purgatory's Key, and Agents of Influence name her Naomi Rada after the actress who played her. Rada wore what appears to be a bendi, a decorative dot mostly associated with Hinduism, but also used in Jainism and Buddhism, or worn for purely decorative purposes. So no clear explanation has been given.
Okay.
So just as the transporter starts to energize, a sexy woman in purple with matching eye makeup. This was great eye makeup.
I do love it.
This is another one you could cosplay. You could pull this one off.
Well, did you see the bottom half of her outfit? I was like, what's holding that up? Yeah, that would be dangerous to cosplay that, but maybe some kind of sticky tape that was holding that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, loved the purple outfit. It was sexy, and the eye makeup was like on fleek, as the kids stopped saying a while ago.
Yeah. So she pops into the room and exclaims, "Wait, you must not go," which of course is too late as the transporter is already energized. And she goes over to the transporter guy and touches his shoulder, and he drops to the ground. Now, so I have a question, because later we learn that this character comes in pursuit of a specific person and can only shoulder touch and drop the person who she's assigned to be after. Was she assigned to be the transporter guy?
See, this is a very great point, because I didn't think about that until you brought it up. I don't know. That's a good point. The away team sees her just as they're beaming away, but of course they can't do anything because their atoms are
already. The away team materializes on the planet, which is like paint the soundstage walls lavender this week.
New foam rock playset.
Yes. And I fucking love this set effect. This thing starts shaking. The way, like, this reminded me of, oh God, one of those game shows on Nickelodeon that I watched, Guts or Legend of the Hidden Temple or something. Because, so this, I would love to see a making of this, because it's got to be like plywood flooring, right? That's separate pieces.
Different levels.
On independent hydraulic or whatever, probably not, probably like manual, and somebody's off to the side going like one of those train cars where you have to pump the thing up and down to make this whole thing like move and rumble and shit. This was an amazing set.
That was fun. Yeah. As soon as they beam there, it's like an earthquake, and they basically, this whole set is simulating an earthquake, and the rocks are moving at different levels. So you can, like you said, you can tell that they're on different platforms, and it was cool.
Anyway, it's not just the planet that's shaking. The ship is too, and crew both aboard the ship and on the planet are all thrown to the ground.
So when the quaking stops, Uhura, everybody's recovering on the ship, and Uhura asks Spock, what happened, Mr. Spock? And Spock decides he wants to be smart as Vulcan on this episode.
A lot.
And he says, the occipital area of my head seems to have impacted with the chair.
I hit my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Uhura's like, no, I meant what happened to us.
Spock's like, what do you mean us exactly? What happened to us? I told you, Uhura, it's just not going to work.
Oh.
Lieutenant Rada, who has taken over Sulu's console, points at the view screen, which is now just a star field, and exclaims, "Look, the planet is gone." Back on the planet, Diamato is making a lot of hay about how powerful that earthquake was. Would other planets just call them quakes? Or would you have like Vulcan quakes and Kronos quakes and Romulus quakes? It's only an earthquake on Earth.
Good point. Oh, well, he did seismic activity.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's like, it's nothing he's ever seen before.
Of course it's not. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. But they did learn that they can't contact the Enterprise because it's gone.
After the theme, Sulu's working a theory on this, that the Enterprise just must have been blown up. Matter, antimatter reactors, boom. And it's easy to wave dialogue like this away, but it's important because, like the discussions of evolution earlier, it really demonstrates that this show is trying to root itself in science, observation, patterns, testing. So they talk through this. It couldn't have blown up because there'd be radiation left behind. So they're throwing out the hypotheses and they're doing the observations and knocking them down. And
McCoy's like, well, maybe it hit the planet. And then
won't be the last time, TNG crew. Oh, shit.
That was not my fault.
And then Sulu starts talking about a meteor. He's like, a meteor once hit Siberia and yada, yada, yada. But Kirk cuts him off. He's like, wait, if I wanted to hear Russian history lessons, I would have brought Chekhov.
I love that so much.
I know.
Chekhov's not even there, and we're pulling in Chekhov's misappropriated Russian tales.
I know. I love it. Testy, though. He was super testy.
There's a lot of emotional differences in character in this episode.
I noticed that, too.
Yeah. Sulu and Diamato are sent away tricordering. Meanwhile, on the Enterprise, damage reports are coming in, mostly bumps and bruises, and the ship is okay. But there is one casualty, Ensign Wyatt, the transporter operator.
Oh my God! They've killed
Ensign Wyatt.
You bastards!
They send the body down to get an autopsy.
Guess who's minding the store while McCoy's away?
It's our favorite doctor.
Our favorite doctor, Dr. Mbenga.
Yay!
But he doesn't have anything to report on Wyatt's death, though. So check back later.
Meanwhile, Rada is scanning for the planet, and she's not finding any debris. She does mention, you know what? The stars are wrong, whatever that means. But they take a closer look and discover a positional change. She says, we're 1,000 light years away from our previous position. And of course, Spock being testy, smart-ass Vulcan, he's like, it's actually 990.7 light years away.
So this Spock being a logical dick versus the emotional characters of the others comes out a lot in this episode. In the next moment, it puts Scotty into the McCoy role of emotional, illogical outburst. And Scotty's like, that can't be. And Spock points out that none of this is possible according to the laws of physics that we know. And yet, somehow, here we are. And Scotty gets emotional again. So the planet didn't blow up? The captain and the others? They're still alive? Very McCoy-like in this scene.
Yeah. But then, because he's showing hope, Spock says, well, you need to tamp down on that leap of illogic.
Yeah. He keeps coming back like, facts. We're only talking about facts, guys. Turn your emotions off.
I don't care about care about how you feel.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That does get redeemed in the end, which I did like about this episode.
Yeah.
The Tannoy phone rings, and Mbenga has a preliminary cause of death, cellular disruption. As though every cell in the body had been individually blasted from inside. But they haven't quite figured out what could cause that yet.
No known disease could have caused that. And Spock, again, he's speculating that somebody might have come into the transporter room after the away team left.
So the obvious course of action now is to return to the coordinates of the planet, which Scotty says would take forever, even at warp 8. And proudly offers to squeeze a bit more out by sitting on the warp engines himself and nursing them.
This was weird. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear the way that Spock delivered this next line, he was maybe trying not to laugh. Did you?
I didn't catch that. No.
Because Spock rarely puts his hand up to his mouth. So after Scotty says that he'll sit on the warp engines himself and nurse them, Spock says that position, Mr. Scott, would not only be unavailing, but also undignified. What? But he put his hand on his mouth as if trying to not laugh.
Okay.
Anyway,
I didn't catch that.
Might have been just me.
Back on the planet, Sulu's back to his old botany days. And he's determined that all of the vegetation on the planet is poisonous to humans. Speaking of vegetation, it appears to be here despite no evidence of rainfall or water systems of any kind. So maybe the plants absorb moisture from the air, or maybe there's some underground water system of some kind.
Anyway, they split up to do more analysis. Everybody goes into their different directions. Sulu is off in his little corner doing stuff, and something happens on his tricorder, and he reports back to Kirk. He's like, I've got a powerful reading when I was making a standard magnetic sweep. And this analogy is driving me nuts. He tells Kirk, it's like a door opened and closed again.
Mm-hmm. So the magnetic scan goes from like 0 to off the scale and then back again to 0. And they like a door opening and closing. I know we're just
use a different analogy. I mean,
yeah. They're trying to explain to the audience like what, we learn later what that is.
Right.
But yeah, it's a stretch.
He could say like someone flipped a switch.
Yeah.
And then turned it on.
Yeah.
Turned it on and then turned it off again.
Meanwhile, D'Amato is off tricordering around a different area of the foam rock set.
He's playing in the dirt.
Yeah, he picks up some soil and scans it. McCoy's out scanning plant life somewhere else. And D'Amato, who turns around now to see this week's Star Trek sex object again.
Mm-hmm.
We later learn that her name is Losira, which I wanted to call her Losira the whole time. I was like,
yep.
That's what it looked like to me. So I
Losira.
Forgive if I fucked that up throughout this episode.
That's how I would have pronounced it.
Everybody sit down. This is a long one. Lee Meriwether had a long career in the business.
Love her. I think I watched probably every show she was in when I was growing up.
Her first credit was in 1954 and her last in 2021. Mm-hmm. She's done a lot of shit. Then that 1954 credit was as Miss California in the Miss America televised special, which she won and was crowned Miss America. And then a lot of her appearances in game shows that happened after then were like as a result of the Miss America title. Like she was out doing the Miss America thing.
Yeah.
So she was on she did a Jerry Lewis telethon. She made the rounds of classic TV, Dragnet, Leave It to Beaver, The Courtship of Eddie's Father,
Barnaby Jones. That's where I know her from.
Okay,
Barnaby
children.
Jones.
Last week on Barnaby Jones. Classic game shows in the 70s and 80s. $10,000 Pyramid, Hollywood Squares, which I fucking loved. Hollywood Squares, Match Game, Password Plus, Family Feud. The list goes on and on and on.
Mm-hmm. She was gorgeous.
She was the Catwoman in the 1966 Batman the movie. And then appeared in the Batman TV series. Hey, happy Women's History Month, everybody. Holy shit, what a rock star.
Woo-hoo. Yeah.
She's amazing.
That's awesome.
So Lucira starts coming on to D'Amato pretty hard. She knows his name, knows that he's the senior geologist from the spaceship Enterprise, and she keeps telling him not to be afraid. She's like, I am for you, Lieutenant D'Amato. I am only for D'Amato. There was, I think this is a Star Trek The Next Generation, where a character says, I am for you, Ulrich of Lars or Ulrich of something.
I don't know.
Hold on, let me Google again, because I am for you.
I am for you. Lars?
Ulred? Is it Ulred?
I don't know.
Oh, it's the perfect mate. Ulrich. Yes, this is the perfect mate. Okay, I remember this. There's a wedding, simple wedding, and she repeats, there's a ceremonial line she says, I am for you, Ulrich of Vault. I knew I heard this somewhere before, and I didn't know if it was I didn't even know if it was Star Trek or not, but there it is.
Which episode was it?
The Perfect Mate.
TNG?
Yes. I believe that was the one where the woman was inside an egg or something, and they were transporting it, and then she got knocked over, and woke up early or something. I don't know. I can't wait till you get there.
Wow. That doesn't. Yeah, I can't wait.
Anyway, D'Amato's like, hold the fucking phone. You're that woman we saw on the Enterprise. He tries to reach for his communicator, but she tells him not to contact the others.
She's like, yeah, don't do that. And then the camera cuts because, again, they started that whole thing about not showing the actual act of murder or whatever.
Yeah.
Which makes it just as impactful, if not more.
Yeah, for sure. So cut to McCoy calling up Kirk. He's got a strange phenomena. Suddenly, he got a ridiculously intense life form reading. And then just as suddenly, it disappeared. And Kirk's like, yeah, like a door opening and closing. This is sounding familiar.
So they trace this reading to D'Amato's location, and they run to find him dead.
Oh my God! They've killed
Senior Geologist D'Amato.
you, bastards!
And then, of course, McCoy does his examination, and every cell in his body has been disrupted.
After the break, Kirk's got his heater out, and McCoy's like, "What are you doing?" Kirk says, "I'm digging a grave." And McCoy's like, "Hey, could you talk to Spock for us? This one time we were on the shuttle, you know, the Galileo 7, and a dude died, and he refused to let us bury him."
Well, I actually wrote a note about that, and maybe you can help me remember on Galileo 7. Didn't they use shovels?
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I bet they
them.
did. I don't. Maybe they didn't show it at all.
Or they wanted to try to. I think they tried to use shovels or something, because in this scene when Kirk takes out his phaser and is going to blast a hole into the ground, I'm like, "Oh, you're digging a hole that way?" And maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
I don't know that it shows it then, because all it says here is eventually Spock relents and allows the burial. I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway, semantics.
Big fucking rabbit hole.
I know, that's how we are.
So Kirk fires his phaser at the ground, but when the smoke clears, it only barely scratched the surface and revealed these kind of bone-looking rocks. Do these look like bones to you?
Like, sort of, but they're red. Reddish.
Yeah. I have a feeling we're missing a scene here, because Sulu says that's the same red rock. But that's the first time he's mentioned it, anybody's mentioned it in this episode. So there must have been a scene earlier about the red rocks that got cut out.
Cool effect, though.
Yeah.
But so then Kirk does it in another section. So he fires his phaser at the ground again, and they do the same explosion, and the same things revealed. So yeah, that's a little bit disjointed. So maybe we are missing a scene there somewhere.
Sulu's going to have to take up the job of geologist now, figure out what that stuff is. Meanwhile, McCoy's like, "Well, Jim, I guess we'll just have to bury D'Amato under a pile of rocks." Funny story. It's a bit like what they do to you in that movie Star Trek Generations, when you, maybe a man shouldn't know too much about his own future.
It was fun. Oh my.
But I did find it interesting. Sulu was like saying, "Mom, what a terrible way to die." And then McCoy's like, "Well, there's no good way to die."
Yeah.
But I think Klingons would disagree.
Yeah. Today is a good day to die.
Yeah, and you got to die a warrior death.
This brings me back to my father's passing. One of the things that gave me some comfort was that he woke up with this thing that had happened, and within hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to watch my dad. My dad was one of those guys who he could do anything. He could fix it. He'll figure out how to fix it if he didn't know how, weld some shit together if he needed to. Even recently, his not being able to do all of the things that he used to be able to do was very frustrating for him. And I'm glad he went the way he did. And I didn't have to watch him, sit in home for 6 months or whatever and not be able to do the things that he always did. And so, yeah. And I want to go before I'm not able to, if I start losing my memory and can't remember people or who I am or whatever, and I can't do the things that I love to do, I'm done. Tag me out.
100% agree. Yeah.
On the Enterprise, Rada reports that they're holding warp 8.4, and if they can maintain that, their ETA will be 11.5 solar hours. And here we go with Spock again. It's actually 11.337 hours, Lieutenant. I wish you'd be more precise.
Testy, what the fuck? Like, he's so out of character in this episode. I do now know why.
Of course, right? And still playing the role of emotion to Spock's logic, Scotty calls up to report that the ship feels wrong. And Spock's like, "Call me back when you have words that mean something."
Spock accuses him of being emotional and tells him to keep your instruments correct. I don't give a shit about how you feel.
Yeah.
Like, he was just not in the mood. He's not in the mood.
Okay, we need to talk about a prop here. because this ends with Spock clicking and clacking some buttons on this little handheld device thing.
Yeah.
It looked to me like one of those fidget toys that kids get nowadays that have like
a fidget spinner?
No, the little cube. My son has a cube. I might even be in this room somewhere. This little cube, and on each face of the cube is a different fidget thing. But this has like click-clack buttons and twisty knobs and shit like that. So I thought it was like a fidget toy.
I'm sure it wasn't. It's Spock. Spock doesn't play with toys. Spock doesn't play with fidget toys.
On the planet, Kirk must have found a fat-tipped Sharpie because he's placing a stone atop the pile with Lieutenant D'Amato written in permanent marker.
Maybe he burned it in with his phaser. That phaser can do. Like, that phaser can heat a rock. It can It can dig a grave. I mean, maybe it can write too. They're kind of standing there looking at the grave of rocks, and Sulu says, "Well, it looks kind of lonely there." And McCoy says, "Well, it would be way worse if he had company," which means they would be joining him.
Mm-hmm. Kirk considers the possibility the rocks themselves might have life. And Sulu reminds us of the moldy pizza hordas, but those at least registered as life forms on their scans.
Not initially.
Nope, correct.
So
maybe they're not scanning for the right thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then they think, well, maybe they're dealing with some sort of intelligent life form that can shield themselves, but they're powerful enough to like destroy the Enterprise, and they only have questions. They got no answers. Back on the Enterprise, Scotty is just kind of taking a gander around the engineering to try to figure out what could be wrong. And there's a lot of like walking around slowly, looking up in the, just looking kind of lost.
Because he's chasing down that weird feeling of his, and I want to say there's a Next Generation episode where they make some noise about like, the shit. The rumble or the hum or the feel, the vibrations or whatever of the ship feel off. I feel like they do this again.
And honestly, there's maybe something to that. Like if that is your machine that you work on, that is your responsibility, you know it inside and out. And if there's something that's a little bit off, maybe you'll feel it. You'll recognize it.
Like your car. If your car starts to shimmy in like you would recognize that.
Yeah, exactly. So he asks Watkins, this poor guy, looks like an assistant. He's not even in a uniform. He's more like in overalls. He says to Watson to go check the bypass valve on the matter-antimatter reaction chamber. So off Watkins goes by himself to another part of engineering.
Never a good move in a horror flick.
No. So he's in another little room just off of the main engineering room, looking at some blinking panels, and here she comes again. Space Lady. She knows his name and knows his rank, and Watkins is like, I don't know you. I don't know you. But she kind of ignores that, and she starts asking him to show me this unit.
Oh my. Show me your unit.
Because she wants to learn. And then apparently, I don't know what he told her, but maybe it was something that wasn't quite accurate.
There's a lot of technobabble in this episode. He points out that like this is the matter-antimatter integrator control, and she closes her eyes while he's talking and then opens them again and says, no, that's wrong. This is the emergency overload bypass.
This is when I'm like, okay, she's either telepathic or
a robot or something. Yeah. And she kind of explains what it does. And a few times throughout this interaction, she does that thing where she closes her eyes. It really gave me the feeling of like, do you remember when Norm and the Alice bots in that one episode would talk to each other, how they kind of froze and then the blinky light thing happened?
Yep. I forgot about Norm. I can't remember his name.
The only reason I remember it is because of Phineas and Ferb.
My name is Norm.
Because Norm is a robot in Phineas and Ferb.
The enemy of the platypus is man.
Anyway, she says, I'm for you, Mr. Watkins. And we know what that means.
Well, just as she's about to like touch him, he's like, I'm telling. He starts screaming his head up.
Help!
Scotty, there's a strange woman and she's in here. And then we hear him scream. They cut to Scotty. Scotty runs in. He's already dead.
Oh my God! They've killed
Watkins, John B. Engineer grade 4.
You bastards!
he calls Spock and tells him what's happened, and Spock calls for a security alert.
Let's talk about the effect that they used here to show her disappearing. This problem, I mean, I don't know how simple this would have been to do back then, but she sort of like becomes two-dimensional.
They fold her up.
Turns. And so then she's just a black straight line, like a cardboard cutout or something. And then that disappears like a wipe from top and bottom to the middle. Yeah.
They like fold her up and keep folding until she's gone. I don't know.
I appreciate the effort that they put into this because honestly, they could just have every alien pop in and out of existence, like with just a camera cut. But this this gives it a little more zhuzh.
I liked it.
Back on the planet, night is falling, and there's more evidence that this planet isn't the natural object they first thought. Sulu reports that red rock material is an alloy of dibernium osmium, whatever the fuck that is.
Whatever it was, it could not have occurred naturally.
Kirk recaps what they've learned so far, which suggests to McCoy perhaps this is an artificial planet. Lots of unanswered questions, but they'll have to try to get some rest and tackle it again tomorrow. So Sulu volunteers for the first watch shift, and he takes D'Amato's tricorder and sets it up on a rock like a proximity detector, I guess, on automatic distress.
So I'm not sure what that was because it was beeping.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was it transmitting an automatic distress signal or was it a motion sensor? I don't know exactly.
No, I think maybe you're right. Maybe it is transmitting an automatic distress. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but he sets it up and then he kind of just goes off into the distance, kind of looking off into space.
La La Land.
Yeah.
And Kirk and McCoy lay down against some rocks as Sulu wanders away. This was the most uncomfortable,
yeah.
I know you're trying to lay down with your head on a rock and that's not comfortable, but the position, Kirk especially, the position he was in, I was like, there's no way they're going to fall asleep like that.
But apparently they did.
Back on the Enterprise, Mbenga doesn't have a cause of death for Watkins, but it's the same cellular disruption. Spock muses aloud that the power this intruder has, the deaths, the things it's done to the Enterprise, we're in great danger. And Scotty's like, you mean that one of the people who threw us 1,000 light years away from the planet is on board and killing our people? And the camera cuts down to Lieutenant Rada, and she's got this look on her face like, oh, fuck, I'm one of the last new one-off characters in this episode, aren't I? I thought she was next. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cut back to the planet, and guess who? It's Space Lady again. Every time someone goes off alone, this time it's Sulu that she's bugging. She appears to Sulu. She starts telling him his name and his rank and where he's born, and Sulu starts questioning her, like, who are you? Where are you from? And then she does say, I am from here. So we finally get the answer. I mean, we kind of knew it, but she does at least give some information that she's from here.
Sulu's like, well, the captain's going to want to talk to you. And he kind of motions for her to move along. But she's like, nope, because she has come for him. And Sulu's like, what do you want? She says, I want to touch you. And Sulu's like, yeah, this is really more Kirk's thing. He's right over here.
You're not my type.
No, you want to touch somebody. Kirk will be all for that.
He's like, stop or I'll shoot. And then she keeps coming. She fires at her feet. And he's like, I don't want to have to shoot a woman.
Okay. This is a little old timey. I guess maybe they'd call that chivalry back in the day.
Well, I mean, it's
I don't want to hurt a woman.
69.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It gets worse because of some of that other shit that they say.
Yeah.
No effect when he fires at her feet. It doesn't scare her. He starts firing at her. She's got some sort of force field, so the phaser just bounces off of her, and then he starts calling for Captain Kirk. Now, I'm surprised that Captain Kirk or McCoy didn't hear when he shot at her feet and the fucking ground exploded.
Yeah, so and they couldn't have been sleeping very soundly, again, with their heads on rocks like that.
Like, for 10 minutes for the last, But anyway.
He gets up and he's like, kind of walking backward away from her, realizing that he can't stop her.
Mm-hmm.
And then he trips on a rock and falls backward. And as he tries, yeah, right. As he tries to get up and kind of run back away, she lightly brushes his shoulder with her fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
Well, luckily Kirk and McCoy jump between them And Losira's like, I'm for him, Sulu. You gotta let me touch him. And Sulu realizes now this is how D'Amato died. Losira puts her hand on Kirk's shoulder, but nothing happens, and he pushes her away. Kirk asks how she can destroy the others, but not him. And she says, I don't want to destroy. I don't want to. I kind of have to.
And she's like, I only want Sulu. I don't mean you any harm.
Throughout this whole thing, she does the eyelid thing again. That leads me to think she's like a robot or a telepath of some kind.
Mm-hmm. Kirk asks the sexist question. He's like, are there any men on this planet? Or maybe it's not sexist. Maybe he just want to know what his shot is.
Right.
I don't know.
And then Kirk asks again, who are you? Why are you trying to kill us? And she's like, not you, just Sulu. Please let me touch him. And when Kirk yells no, she jumps backwards, goes flat, and disappears again.
Folded up like a door, opening and closing.
Sulu's shoulder, where she grazed it with her hand, sure enough, every cell's been disrupted just like the others. And Sulu's like, I'm having a real hard time working out how such a beautiful person can be so evil.
And there you have it.
Yeah. Is there in beauty no beauty? We've talked about this before. Like beauty equals nice.
Beauty equals nice. Yeah. And I think we all should reevaluate the word evil because
this wasn't so much evil in this as we later learn.
It's just defense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
On the bridge of the Enterprise, security sweeps haven't turned up an intruder, so they cancel red alert but maintain increased security. There's another interaction here where Spock gets a little snarky.
The fuck, man?
When Uhura asks about the possibility that the captain and others are alive, he's like, we're not at a casino, Uhura. We're proceeding in the only logical way to return to the place they were last seen and factually ascertain whether or not they are still alive.
But also, she's like, well, how did she get off the ship? And Spock says, and this is unnecessary, Spock. He's like, well, presumably the same way she got on. I'm like, really, Dick?
Right?
Why are you being like this?
Right. Just then, Rada reports an increase in speed, warp 8.8 now, and Scotty confirms that there's a power surge from somewhere. But when they try to reduce speed, nothing changes. In fact, now they're up to 8.9 and climbing. Here we go again with another alien entity flying the Enterprise past its known speed limit.
So I know, why can't they do it? Like, they always say, we can't go that faster. Yes, you can.
Apparently,
we know
you can.
We've
right.
seen you do it many times. The aliens make you do it.
Yeah, the ship's not going to fly apart. You've done it before, and it didn't.
Right.
Right.
But Scott has figured out why this is happening. It's the emergency bypass control of the matter-antimatter integrator is fused. The engines are running wild, and they got 15 minutes before the Enterprise blows up.
Again, Spock, written as a dick, says, I would calculate 14.87 minutes, Mr. Scott. And Scotty's like, okay, split hairs if you want, but those few seconds aren't going to make any difference because we're all going to be dead.
Back on the planet, McCoy's done like a cursory examination of Sulu, and there's some like necrotic tissue. I hate the word necrotic because that means like something's rotting. But there's a layer of necrotic tissue, just a few cells thick, which is pretty thin, on his shoulder where she touched him.
They talk about like what kind of power it would take to cause this kind of injury or death, which Sulu just barely avoided. And why didn't she kill Kirk? Well, it's only Act 3. There's plenty of episode left for that.
Yeah. She's definitely not through yet.
Scotty's working on unfusing the emergency bypass, but it's fused, which would have taken the power level of their phaser banks to accomplish. And Spock, of course, finds this fascinating despite their peril, but Scotty's all worked up again. Whatever did this is still on the ship, and Spock canceled the security alert. But Spock points out that this entity is so powerful to do all of these things, it's not just going to stand around and wait to be taken into custody by a couple UC red shirts.
He's 100% correct.
Mm-hmm. So Spock's got a plan, and Scotty's got a whole page of technobabble in the script. Spock suggests going into the access tube, leading to the matter-antimatter reaction chamber, but it's not meant to be used while the integrator is in operation, because a man might not even be able to live in that crawlway, in the energy stream of the magnetic field that bottles up the antimatter. So much technobabble.
anything that comes in contact with the antimatter might trigger the explosion, but he's going to have to go. Somebody's going to have to go. It's probably going to be him.
This was fun, though, because at first, Spock seems like determined that he's going to be the one to go do this task, even though there's a possibility of blowing the ship up just by being in that tube. But as soon as Scotty volunteers to do it, Spock's like, bet. That's a great suggestion. All yours, Mr. Scott. You go in that tube. So it's the only way to save the ship. And meanwhile, Spock will be doing some research because he took note of Scotty's emotional report earlier about the ship not feeling right. And he wants to compare, this is a great idea. He wants to compare the ship's present condition against its ideal condition.
But now Scotty's like, no, we don't have time for that. Forget it.
Yeah.
You know, but then Spock says, well, we have actually 12 minutes and 27 seconds. So you need to do what you need to do, and I'm going to do what I need to do.
They will hand off this countdown baton back and forth between a few characters here. Because Sulu's on the planet. He can't do it.
He's our
It's really
counter.
his job. And Spock says 12 minutes, 27 seconds, but with as pedantic as he's been this whole episode, shouldn't he have said 12 minutes and 27.4983 seconds or some bullshit?
Back on the planet, Sulu's feeling better, and they decide, okay, whatever power this woman has, it's only aimed at one person at a specific time. So this is where they kind of figure out whoever she's coming for is the only one she can actually kill. So they just need to make sure that they get between her and whoever she's coming for.
Suddenly there's a whirring noise and Kirk's heater is on overload. This was a fun effect too. He like chucks it like a grenade over his head behind some rocks and they all hit the deck as it...
Awesome.
Good stuff. They did a lot of that exploding on the ground this episode. Like when they fire a phaser at the ground, like all of that trigger an explosion on the ground. They did a lot of that. It was fun stuff. Back on the Enterprise, Scotty's got some junior red shirts with him. And this was fun. They lift him up on his back and kind of stuff him into the crawl space.
Backwards.
Yeah.
On his back and backwards.
And the whole crawl space was a fun effect too. And I didn't see anything about whether or not this was part of a remaster, but so the camera POV is inside the tube looking back toward the opening where Scotty entered, right? So his head is near camera. And there's like this blue electrical energy effect on the sides of the screen that give the impression that like he can't go any further than that.
Some energy happening.
Yeah.
And he has what looks like a Doctor Who sonic screwdriver in his mouth.
For a hot minute, it looked to... There's one shot of it that looks like just like a plain old wrench. And then later it actually looks a little more sci-fi. But Scotty flips open a StarTAC and lays it down next to him while he works. So he's got it on speakerphone. So he calls up the bridge and he tells Spock that he's basically booby-trapped the thing to blast him away from the Enterprise if he were to trigger an explosion.
Oh, that's very selfless of him.
Yeah.
That's
always putting the ship first.
Yeah.
He says it feels like this energy makes it feel like there's ants crawling all over him. And anybody who's, been zapped by anything will know that. I mean, that's kind of a familiar feeling.
But Spock decides it's time to give another time update. And he's like, I just refrain from further subjective descriptions. You've got 10 minutes and 19 seconds.
So then Rada reports the Enterprise is at warp 11.2 and accelerate 11.2. And of course, Scotty's like, she can't go that fast. But all Spock says is, and now you have 10 minutes and 10 seconds. Quit wasting time.
So they show a lot of just Scotty in the tube doing some stuff with the thing and sticking the sonic wrench into the little... Don't look at me that way.
I'm waiting to go. Spock tries to get the computer to give an analysis of some data that he's input. He's trying to figure out the current Enterprise versus the ideal Enterprise.
Before.
Right. But it's too much to process immediately. And Spock looks up at the view screen on his station, and there's like a Windows 98 progress bar window that shows the file download, and it's like 12 days, 20 hours, 5 minutes, 23 seconds. You remember downloading big-ass files on dial-up like that?
And you just walk away and leave it.
Yeah, and hope like hell you don't get disconnected.
So he takes the panel off, and we don't really know what's happening.
You don't get to see inside that panel. It's just like flashy lights,
He just says it looks like an aurora borealis in there.
Yeah. They make a big production of the danger here. There's only 2 seconds between Scotty fucking up and everything exploding. So in 3 paragraphs ago, he rigged up something to jettison him, but apparently there's a button that triggers that, and it's at Rada's control station. And she's like, I'll blast that fucker out into space at the first sign of trouble.
Spock is like, no, not until I tell you to.
Warp 11.9 now, and Spock checks in with Scotty, and Scotty seems like he's hit a block. He says there's so much disturbance that any attempt to get to the flow would rupture the magnetic field. Boom.
8 minutes, 41 seconds.
And Scotty's great. He's like, I know what time it is. I don't need a bloomin' cuckoo clock.
And then meanwhile, so they're switching back and forth. They switch back to the planet where they're starting to get that strange energy surge again, like a door opening. And here she comes again. And Kirk's like, okay, who are you here for this time? And she's like, I'm here for you, James T. Kirk.
Losira finally gives us some answers. She's come to get Kirk because they are invaders. And Kirk's like, no way, we come in peace or whatever. Besides, you're the one killing our people. We just want to get the fuck out of here peacefully. Thank you very much. McCoy's tricordering her, and she doesn't register as life form or machine. What the hell is this? And she introduces herself as Losira, commander of this station. And they're all like, station? What station?
Aha!
It's all becoming very clear.
So Kirk always does he's the one to talk to the computer to send it into a logic loop. And he's like, so, station, huh? So how do you feel about killing me? And then she's like, feel? Killing is wrong. But then she's moving around and he's making sure that McCoy and Sulu stay between
They've
her
formed
and him.
like a human wall between them.
They're playing like a
Red Rover.
Star Trek Keep Away or Keep Away. Remember, did you ever play Keep Away?
Oh, yeah. She was sent to defend this place. So that's why she will kill, even though she doesn't want to.
Gotcha.
Because she sees it as necessity. And we also learn here that the inhabitants of this place are long dead. This is abso-fucking-lutely the TNG episode I remembered and told you about last time on Humanist Trek. Although I was way off. It wasn't the episode I thought it was. It was an episode called The Arsenal of Freedom. Riker, Data, and Yar beam down to this planet where an old security system is still active. But that one is like, it's not just that the security system is active. It's also like a hologram trying to sell them the security system. I can't wait till we get to TNG. It's gonna be so fun. Kirk asks her how long she's been alone. Is she lonely? But she just disappears again. But that also triggers a power surge on their tricorders. So they follow the readings until they get to an area in the rocks where Kirk says, oh, the entrance has got to be around here somewhere. And then suddenly a giant foam rock slides to the side, revealing a door.
This was ridiculous, but cool. But cool at the same time.
Yeah.
So part of the foam rock set slides away and there's a door in a cave. So they walk in. McCoy thinks, we've probably been led here.
Well, Kirk makes a lot of assumptions about this cave, too. He assumes that whatever civilization lives here is inside here, despite Losira telling us recently that they're all gone. And he also assumes there's food and water inside.
Could be.
Anyway, yeah. Back on the Enterprise, the computer has its comparison analysis ready. More technobabble. Transporter factor M7, reassembled out phase 0.0009, whatever the fuck that means. Now Rada takes over the countdown.
Yeah. They have, I don't know what's happened, but they've got 57 seconds to go.
Scotty's going to try to cut through the magnetic flow, but this could trigger the explosion. And sure enough, as soon as he starts putting the probe into the field, Uhura registers the magnetic force increasing, so they tell Scotty to pull out.
Well, so many jokes.
So many. And that drops the force back to normal, so this isn't going to work. But Spock puts the puzzle together. That 0.0009 variance has something to do with it. They're at warp 13.2 now, and Spock asks the computer, for outphase condition, will reverse field achieve closure? And Major Computer confirms. So Spock tells Scotty to reverse the polarity on his probe.
Reverse the polarity?
Spock's like, just do what I told you and I'll explain while you're doing it.
Right.
We're running out of time, bro.
20 seconds at this point.
So,
but then he also says that, hey, by the way, sorry about me giving you a hard time about your feelings, because you were right.
Yeah.
The Enterprise went through some sort of molecular transporter and was reassembled slightly out of phase. So but like if the Enterprise went through, everybody went through.
Right. So are they all out of phase?
I would imagine too.
When was the Enterprise molecularly transported? I mean, that's was thrown 1,000 light years away or whatever, but
that was the shaking. That was the Earth, not earthquake, but seismic activity, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that wasn't very clear for me. I like that they came back and kind of redeemed that.
Yeah.
Anyway, they build up the dramatic tension here with Rada counting us down from 20 seconds. Scotty hits a snag. He's playing with a sonic screwdriver, and apparently to reverse the polarity, you have to take the battery out of it, flip it upside down, and stick it back in.
Yeah.
And I'm very surprised that Becca did not ask us this question, but I talked to her. I was watching it as, in bed, and I was like, oh my God, freeze frame. And I sent you a screenshot, and I was like, holy shit, this is one of the rare times where we get to see Scotty's right hand, Jamie Doohan's hand with the missing finger. Up close, like it's a close-up shot of his hands.
And had you not, I mean, I've watched this episode like maybe 3 times, and had you not said anything, I still would have missed it.
Yeah,
because
it was quick. It was a quick shot.
It was very quick.
And it makes me think, like, was the thinking at the time, because he was very self-conscious about that and made a lot of effort to not show his right hand on screen.
Yep, I was gonna say they made every scene. Because after you told me, I started paying attention, and they would always make sure that his right hand was doing something else or holding something to where you could not see his missing finger.
Yeah. So I wonder if and why they didn't have someone else's hands do the thing. Like I wouldn't know Jimmy Doohan's hands from anybody else's. But I think what the decision must have been was it's such a short shot that, remember in the 1960s, consumers did not have the ability to stop or rewind or freeze frame or, skip frame by frame like we do now. So they probably thought, well, it's just real quick. Nobody's going to notice it. And let's roll with it.
Yeah. So at 9 seconds left, Scotty finally fixes his sonic screwdriver and gets the polarity reverse, and he sticks it into the hole.
The countdown goes all the way to 1. Like, this is at the very last second. Scotty sticks the probe in, and everything starts resolving. Warp 14.1, but dropping. Magnetic forces are steady. We hear the engine sound lowering. Everybody breathes a big sigh of relief, and Scotty's sweating like a hog in this episode, in this moment. This is a very tense moment for him. And Spock says, "Mr. Scott, you have accomplished your task." And Scotty's like, how about a thank you? And that sends Spock on another anti-emotion rant.
For what purpose would you want to thank you? What is it with you humans?
This was fun, though, because like in the middle of this, Scotty's like, hi, never mind. And Spock just keeps going.
Yeah, they have him like talking in the background, but kind of like fade him out. And he's just like, that requires an overwhelming display of emotion in a situation such as this. 2 men pursue the only. I mean, I was like, shut up, Spock. Really? What?
Well, it's time to wrap this mystery up, Scoob. The away team enters a room with a large disco ball looking cube thing hanging from the ceiling.
It's a rave, hey.
And there's Losira again. This is some monkey in the middle bullshit right here. They all spread out, and Losira's in the middle, and they kind of circle her because they don't know who she's after.
Well, then they ask her who she is after, and they assume she's going to tell the truth,
right?
And she's after Kirk, and so
McCoy and Sulu get back into human wall formation.
Right, keep away. Let's try keep away.
Yeah,
and she's begging to touch him, and then she says something that I not quite sure I understand, but she's like, "But you are my match."
Yeah.
I have to touch you, and then I will live as one, even to the structure of your cells. The arrangement of chromosomes. So
I didn't understand that. I don't know what they're trying to get through that, other than like if they're trying to say that the reason she can kill the person is because she's been matched to the structure of his cells and the arrangement of his chromosomes. That would make sense, but she says, then I will live as one. And that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no. But then a second Locira appears. And this time, she's like, I am for McCoy. I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, okay, keep away McCoy and Kirk.
And then a third pops in, and this one's for Sulu. So there's a big orgy about to happen.
Yeah. And they're like, shift positions. They're just like playing keep away. We don't know what's going on. And Sulu's like, look, we can't protect each other.
It seems like the end for our heroes, but then Spock and a UC redshirt beam in, and Kirk shouts at them to shoot the computer. So the UC pulls his heater and blasts the cube, and the Lociras disappear. Kirk explains what's happened on the planet, and Spock tells him what happened on the Enterprise. And they talk about how now the only replica of this lost civilization is gone, destroyed with the Brinks Home Security System that had been left on all these years. And Spock deems this a great loss. Although Kirk is like, well, you might feel differently about that had you been chased around by a killer hot chick like we were.
But then suddenly an image appears on the wall, and it's Locira.
The real Locira. Will the real Locira please stand up?
Stand up. Please stand up. Please stand up. So it's actually the human Locira who sort of left a message for her fellow Kalandians, talking about a disease has destroyed us, beware of it. And this message was for Kalandians that were supposed to be arriving.
The physicians discovered the cause of the sickness, but it was too late. So they're all gone. So her plan was she set the Brinks Home Security System on automatic. And I guess this touching bit was its way of determining if the person was Kalandan or not. Reading their chromosomes, like if she had touched them and they had been Kalandan, she would have been like, welcome home. Come inside. I've got a video for you to see.
Maybe. That wasn't clear.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Okay.
McCoy assumes that the previous ships probably spread the disease, and the supply ship that she was waiting for never came. Thousands of years, she waited to greet people who were dead. Kirk remarks that luckily the projection that the Brinks Home Security System used was the only one it had, Locira's. And that image included her regret and guilt about killing, which gave them the extra time to figure out how to destroy it. There's some bullshit at the end.
About beauty?
Kirk says she must have been a remarkable woman. And McCoy's like, "Hoo boy, and beautiful too." Spock, for the win, maybe, says, "Beauty is transitory, Doctor. However, she was evidently highly intelligent."
Thanks for looking at our brains and not, that.
Kirk calls up the Enterprise to beam up, but he disagrees with Spock. He believes that beauty survives. That is which survives in this episode? I don't know, man. Off we go to the next adventure.
Jeez, I don't know.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'm happy the affair is over.
Me too.
A most annoying, emotional episode.
Yeah, but I learned something today.
When dreams become more important than reality, you give up travel, building, creating.
One jealous god, if all this makes a god.
By sparing your helpless enemy, who surely would have destroyed you, you demonstrated the advanced trait of mercy.
Frankly, I was rather dismayed by your use of the term half-breed. You must admit, it is an unsophisticated expression.
I don't know what the point was. I mean, I don't know.
So they stumble on a planet with the Brinks Home Security System still activated, and they have to try to figure out how to beat the system. That's it. That's the episode. The one thing that I'm drawing at straws here, but I was really pissed off with the way they were pushing Spock to be a dick about, an anti-emotional dick. But then sort of redeemed it later in the end where, Scotty's feeling revealed the answer, right? It was Scotty's weird feeling about this just doesn't seem right. I don't know what it is, but something's off that led them to the answer.
Yep. I'm trying to find the information about why they were like this. The original script or story, the story premise was altered.
Okay.
So the original script was supposed to be Lucira was actually going to be way more brutal, and it was actually causing people to like fight each other. They're causing the crew members to fight amongst themselves. So this was DC Fontana's script.
Yep.
But she was frustrated because they changed it. And they altered it. So she was so frustrated that she removed her name from the credits.
Whoa.
And she put her pseudonym, which was Michael Richards. Michael Richards was her pseudonym. So she didn't even want her name on this. Wow. And I can see why, because it was kind of a mess. I mean, it was kind of a mess. But they had changed it. They had altered the original script.
Huh.
So maybe that's why they appeared, like, even Kirk seemed to have little patience for Sulu, and then Spock just definitely was not himself in this episode.
Oh, see, this would have been a great question for us, too. This is the last episode of the original series in which Enterprise crew members die.
Oh, yeah?
Are shown to die, so says Memory Alpha. Okay. So I don't know if that's the last deaths, but the last deaths we see.
The last time I can make sweet, sweet bars?
Maybe. Do we have any other humanist themes? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there was dying and death and burial. I don't know that
Yeah. Really do some digging.
This one was tough.
All right. Well, now then it's time to honor the dead. So we had Ensign Wyatt, Lieutenant D'Amato, and Engineer Watkins, grade 4, right? Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
This is 3. So yeah, 3 people died in this episode. Wrote a rhyme about it. Want to hear it? Here it goes.
Watch this.
This dead shot.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
Ensign Wyatt transported the team as he was instructed. A space lady touched him, and his cells were disrupted. Back on the planet, the team split up. That's never a good idea. And sure enough, that same space lady caught D'Amato alone. She said, "I am for you," touched him, and then he was gone. Back on the ship, here she comes again, 1,000 light years away, in engineering. This time, Watkins was the unlucky one to check the bypass valve because something was wrong. She appeared and said, "I am for you." And sadly, we know she killed him too. But just before she did, he managed to blurt, "Strange woman on board."
Double red alert.
I love it.
Rest in peace.
That's amazing.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay off percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
As always, we want to thank all of our patrons. We especially want to thank our founding admirals. A special thank you to Russell, Allie, Peter, Sarah, and Sherry. And Allie, this week we have a new ensign joining our ranks.
Awesome.
A big welcome aboard to Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Thanks for becoming a supporter.
Thank you so much.
Y'all don't know how much it means, how much we appreciate it. And as I think I said online, all proceeds of the Patreon this month are going towards Paxlovid.
A life-saving drug.
Yeah, no shit. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
And if you want to become a patron too, let's head on down to Quark's Bar. What did I call your Ferengi name? What was your Ferengi name that I made up for
My
you?
Ferengi name?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. Here's Allie as a Ferengi to tell you all about it.
Greetings, savvy profit seekers of the Alpha Quadrant. Your ears have stumbled upon the lucrative opportunity of a lifetime, Humanist Trek. Now, don't just stand there like a Packwood waiting for enlightenment. Let's talk business. First, unleash your linguistic prowess and leave us a review. It's like planting the seeds of profit in the fertile soils of the podcasting market. Smart, right? Now, for those truly desiring a spot in the Ferengi Hall of Commerce, consider becoming a patron. It's not charity. It's an investment in the future of comedic prosperity. Early access, exclusive profit-branded merch, and bonus content so valuable, you'll feel like you discovered a cache of hidden gold-pressed latinum. Don't be a rule of acquisition violator. Head to patreon.com/humanisttrek and pledge as low as $3 a month. The return on your investment? Priceless laughter! And the satisfaction of knowing you're supporting the galaxy's next big profit venture. Profit is our mission, and with your help, we'll be laughing all the way to Grand Nagus' bank.
Let me remind you that taking business advice from a female is a violation of Ferengi law. Shame on you!
I hope you're satisfied.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets.
Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance?
Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
Becca rejoins us now for the exciting conclusion to the answer to the Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge for that which survives. Remind me again, because I've completely forgotten.
I do not remember.
I don't either. What was the question?
This episode marks the second and final appearance of what character until they appear in a different franchise series?
Okay, we've seen the episode, and we mistakenly guessed Spock's parents.
A second and final appearance of a character?
It was, what's his name that got killed, right? Diamato?
Amada? Diamato? Well, when was his first appearance?
I don't know. Becca will tell us if it's, I don't know. What's the right answer?
It is none other than Dr. Mbenga.
Oh, fuck! We should have known that!
Incorrect.
Fuck, damn it. Yep.
We're so dumb. Oh my God. We're dumb.
I surely
our
thought.
Our favorite doctor.
Right.
Yeah.
I surely thought that you would get that after you watched it.
Son of a bitch. No, because I forgot I wasn't watching with intent.
And you said he appears in another frame. Oh my
God. Damn.
Right in front of us.
It's so obvious.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not fair. All right, next week
we
then.
don't deserve a point anyway.
Next week, we will be reviewing Star Trek, the original series, Season 3, Episode 18, The Lights of Zetar? Zetar? I haven't watched it yet, so don't know how it's pronounced.
Zetar, I think.
Zetarians threaten Lieutenant Mira Romaine. Who writes these? This is the dumbest episode description I've ever...
Listen,
okay.
It's Season 3. They've done.
Given up.
Okay,
yeah.
they're just so done. Just like, let's just get it out.
I love that this is my segue.
Crap. All right. What's our question for The Lights of Zetar?
What legendary ventriloquist co-wrote this episode?
Legendary ventriloquist? I don't know legendary ventriloquists.
Oh, darn.
You
know this
wait,
one.
I do know this one. It's Sherry
What's
Lewis.
that one?
Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop. Remember Lamb Chop? Oh, I know this one. Yes.
Wait, but was he Lamb Chop? He
Final answer, Sherry Lewis, Lamb Chop.
Oh, Sherry Lewis.
Sherry Lewis.
You thought she said Jerry Lewis?
I did. I'm like, Jerry Lewis didn't do Lamb Chop. That was a woman.
Oh, yeah, Sherry Lewis. It's it. It's got to be it. Are you joining me on the Sherry Lewis square, or do you think it's somebody else?
I have no answer.
I should have played that down and let you pick somebody else, and then I would have gotten a point. But
wow,
she's playing dirty in these last handful of.
You can't walk that back. That celebration.
Don't you hope she's wrong?
I mean, I don't have an answer, so there aren't a lot of ventriloquists.
No.
Growing up, especially back then, there was one dude. He stuttered. Do you remember?
No.
See, I don't even know his name. So, yeah, we'll go with Sherry Lewis.
Okay. Final answer. Locking it in.
So how do you know that?
Because it's like known Star Trek trivia. Like well-known Star Trek trivia. It's just something that I'm positive I know from previous whatever knowledge.
Okay. Cool.
Well, if you'd like to play along, you know how to do that. Go to your favorite social media. Share out this episode with your answer and the hashtag Starfleet Challenge, and we will pick out our favorite to be the winner. Next time on Humanist Trek, Star Trek, the original series, Season 3, Episode 18, The Lights of Zetar.
Diftor, heh, smoosma.
Kapla!
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcast. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.